Welcome to Nerd Culture is Dead, Season 2, Episode 2. I am your host and thoroughly a nerd, Zach, and this is also a fellow nerd and fellow host, Andrew.
I am a fellow nerd.
Today we're here to actually do our review of the Dungeons & Dragons movie, Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, as Andrew has pointed out that he actually spent the money on the nice popcorn container for it.
I did. Unfortunately, I did not get it at the theater itself. So instead, I went to the nice folks at AMC's merchandise website and pre-ordered it because I expect there to be a run on it.
I expect it to be a collector's item until it shows up in GameStops a few months later.
Probably accurate.
They'll merchandise the hell out of this thing. But let's go ahead and get into it and address initially our previous reviews of the movie, as we did a expectations video prior to this, talking about what we wanted from the movie and what we didn't want to see from the movie. In that, we gave it a preemptive ranking. I gave it a 7 out of 10, very generous of me. Andrew, you gave it a what again?
I think it was a 5.
Okay, so
5 sounds right.
Andrew said it would be a movie. I said it would be a good movie, and I have to say I think I was right.
I hate to admit it, but yeah, you're definitely right. It was a good movie.
It was a good movie. So off the bat, let's just go ahead and get this out of the way. It's a good movie. If you haven't seen it, I would probably go see it in theaters. I don't think this is a wait till it comes out on DVD or streaming services movie. And if it does, it's going on Paramount Plus anyway, because I think they're the ones who actually made the movie, the team at Paramount.
Yeah, given the connections and everything, I would assume that's what's going to happen.
And no one has Paramount Plus but me for Survivor, so...
That is a very distinct choice.
It is a distinct choice.
You're still watching Survivor, man.
I love Survivor.
Okay.
But regardless, I would go see it in theaters. It's a good movie. It's a good popcorn movie. Let's say that. It's nothing spectacular. It's not fantastical in any way. It is just a good movie.
Get comfortable seats if you can get the ones that have like the nice push to it. You know, the recline a little bit.
Yeah.
Just enjoy the experience. You might as well. I mean, I think I went and saw it in IMAX with laser. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. It's supposed to be like this better than, you know, Dolby surround sound that they used to market all the time. Now it's in laser. And then saw it in IMAX as well. And I was just like, I've never bothered. My buddy Oscar was insistent. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, let's go pay for the expensive seats.
I paid $13, so I'm not too upset.
I went to a rinky-dinky local theater to see it, and it was still a fantastical experience, even if my total bill for me and another person, popcorn, drinks, and candy was $30.
I would support local and do that with you in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that was an amazing time, and I'm probably going to go see the Mario movie tomorrow in that theater as well.
Dang, if only I didn't work so late. The only reason I went to an AMC, I'm going to be 100% forthright. I would have gone to my local theater too, but I wanted this die, and I took a chance. It failed. I should have went to the local theater, and now I know better.
That's all right. So let's go ahead then and give it a final review. I'm going to go ahead and say 8 out of 10. It's a good, well-made movie with some problems to it, and we're going to get into those in a little bit. What about you, Andrew?
I'm going to give it 3 points to Constitution, and I'll go ahead and give it an 8 as well. Yeah, I made that, and I'm going to.
All right, perfect.
It's got some longevity to it, so I've got to give it a little bit of health to keep going.
That's fair. Let it burn out a bit.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead then and get into the negatives that we feel about the movie.
Gotta do it.
Andrew, what's your first negative?
My first negative is anybody seeing this movie for the first time and not knowing anything about D&D, you are going to feel like you are in a lore dump from hell. Now, the movie will be entertaining, but you're going to have things that just go straight over. It's not going to happen. Because I think they dump more Sword Coast and Forgotten Realms lore in one film as Easter eggs than, honestly, most of the books ever do in a single issue.
I mean, honestly, even in, like, the surface level lore, talking about the Red Wizards of Thay, like, the fact that they made Thay the big thing here was just beyond me. Why choose that?
And then they talk about the Harpers right off the bat, and then they offhand mention a few other organizations.
They mentioned the Tyranny of Dragons campaign setting entirely.
Yep.
Saying, that's already happened, don't go there.
Right, I'm just like, okay, so how much more are we going to pull out of the Neverwinter MMO and just throw at somebody? Which, by the way, if you play the Neverwinter MMO, play for the first 2 hours and tell me it's not the same. At least on the lore side. Not the film. Definitely not the same in the film.
Well, and I think I'm going to go ahead and agree with you there. I think that for an initial viewing, and I think that generally as a D&D film, it may fail in that regard a bit.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't convey the same emotion and feeling that you get from playing Dungeons & Dragons. None of that's really present. If anything, this is like a good solo fantasy movie.
Yeah. I'm going to go out also and say this, because I put it in the predictions video. I wanted to see them play at least a game of dice of some kind, or some sort of reference.
And not one.
Not a single one.
You'd think in the prison they could have done that.
Right? It would have been perfect. Or in the tavern, of course. But it's like, no, nothing. I'm like, you couldn't just have somebody gambling with dice? Anything to harken back to what it comes from.
Well, and I'm going to segue off of that right there and go into my first initial critique with the movie. They probably could have fit that scene in if the movie had just been a bit longer and padded that runtime. With how fast-paced this movie was, you feel like you're jumping and jumping and jumping constantly. And if you went to the bathroom, you probably missed a whole scene.
Oh yeah, if you go to the bathroom in this film, you're missing something. Guaranteed. It may not be important, because again, it is a fun romp film that you can watch fully standalone. We'll talk about it in the positives, but if you get up in this film, you will miss something, and then you're going to have to play catch up to some extent. I think it could have benefited from a little bit more of a runtime.
Honestly, an extra 10 minutes would have been justice enough to a lot of these scenes. The time they spend, in the Elven area, for instance, or what do they call it? The, green militant faction?
The Emerald Enclave?
Yeah, the Emerald Enclave. They're in a tavern in the Emerald Enclave, 3 times in the movie, and you see, 2 shots of the thing. You never see them, go up and order drinks. It's just, they have the balcony, and they have the table. That's it.
So this isn't really a negative, but maybe it could be a mixed review on this part. There's also the rainforest logging scene.
Yeah.
That's the other one for the Emerald Enclave. And I'm like, wow, those feel like they're straight out of, Save the Trees. Mind you, that's fine. It kind of fits with the motif, but really it looked like it was straight out of Amazon rainforest saving logging videos.
Kind of, yeah.
I mean, so that kind of brings up some of the issues about effects. I will die on the hill of practical effects. CG is one of those things that has its place. It's very good when done right. It's very bad when done wrong. And practical effects, when done wrong, can be a good thing in a bad movie later. But when they're done right, I mean, you get something like Jurassic Park.
Or The Thing.
Right? And I think this film, for the most part, nails the practical effects, but on and off, there are some things that I'm like, I'm so glad this is practical, but also, I can tell that's a person in a mask.
Mm-hmm. I'll talk about the Eric Croker here, where the Eric Croker was done phenomenally. The wing movement that they had, and the fact that it was actually a guy in a suit was fantastical. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get to the Tabaxi, or the cat people.
Man, I loved how much you hated that.
It just looked so bad. People talked online about the potato and bad CGI. I thought that was fine. Why do you not compare that to the cat people scene? The cat looked so bad.
It did.
It had
Honestly,
two facial movements.
And the Ratkin wasn't amazingly better. It was a good background thing, but it was not a good forefront thing.
Yeah, the Yuan-Ti in the prison in the background shot looked good as they were just passing by cells. That looked amazing. It looked like a Yuan-Ti, I could tell. When they showed the cat person, I'm like, is this out of Skyrim?
Hey man, it's got how many iterations? Apparently it's lovable. Keep it.
I suppose.
There's one thing to kill. Skyrim. Anyway. Oy.
What are you talking about? Didn't you hear the anniversary collection's coming out soon?
I heard it's limited.
Serialized keys? Is
right?
that it?
Yeah, exactly. Man, they're going to go back to CD keys and make it special.
For those 3 computers that are being made with CD drive.
I mean,
I had to go out and buy a CD drive yesterday to get QuickBooks on my computer.
I'm sorry.
It was $30, but still.
On the bright side, I would definitely say, for the most part, we end up with some really awesome practical effects. Yeah. And I won't be surprised to find out that there are a lot of miniature sets and old school shooting techniques a la Star Wars or
Godzilla,
Dune, stuff like that. I'm waiting for certain reveals later for behind the scenes. They won't happen immediately. They'll tell you little things. You'll find snippets online, but I want to find out about like the underground, the whole area being like that. I don't know how much of that I should spoil because we're trying to be like super.
I wouldn't spoil it at all, but just as a whole, the effects in this movie are well done. It's in the trailer, so this isn't a spoiler. But the red dragon that's in the movie, I think that was done amazingly.
I think that's a mix between computer and practical, to be honest. Just because of the logistics of putting it all together, especially when you have certain...
Well, and all the fluid movement it had. Yeah. That thing was definitely CGI, but they might have done practical effects with, like, the close mouthpiece.
They probably did. Yeah. And I would major... Like, obviously it's... I guess this is... It's a red dragon. It's going to breathe fire. The fire was probably not practical.
Yeah, because actors and not being burnt alive.
But I bet you they actually blasted hot air at them.
Probably.
Because you could see all the movement on the actors and everything, and it's pretty asynchronous. And yeah, you can do this with big fans, but I'm sure to get the full effect of the reaction, a sudden burst of heat out of nowhere would be like a blow dryer, only on just,
Yeah, just a big blow dryer.
Would be something I could see them doing. I would also probably say something else that the Famed do is fairly practical. Mm-hmm. You can see where the CGI crosses in, but if you're watching the film and you're analyzing it this hard like we are, you're in the film for far too long. Or maybe not long enough, as we already discussed.
Yeah. But honestly, I don't have that many gripes to go on, so I think we can move on to the positives here.
I mean, I've already started touching on them. I still love most of the practical effects.
Let's go ahead and get away from effects to the actors for a moment.
See, I'm a maker. It's going to be hard for me to get away from that. Well, let's do it. Actor choices.
Honestly, Michelle Rodriguez.
Slam dunk. Didn't expect it.
Oh, yeah. No, she was great.
Did not expect it.
The deadpan worked so well in her favor as a source of comedy. And then she carried emotion when she needed it. She, I think, had the best range of all of the actors in the movie.
Yeah, I could not, for the life of me, and this is so bad, I could not turn around and look at a couple of the scenes that happened towards the end of the film and go, because we're family. I couldn't. It was there. I replaced all of Chris Pine's lines with, because we're family. Even though that's not at all what he says, nor even close to the idea. But I'm sorry. It was just required.
Also, I don't know his name, but the actor who played the sorcerer in the movie was...
Spot on.
Yeah, he was fantastical. He did great.
I don't know what other things he's even been in. I feel really bad not knowing really anything about him.
It's alright. I hardly knew Chris Pine's name, and that's only because I watched the Star Trek movies.
That makes me sad.
The druid tiefling was okay. I don't feel like she was given enough to be able to show any range. It's like even when the tiefling is like turning into an owlbear and fighting all the people in front of the forest, you feel like that would be more emotional for her as that's her new home. But like it felt like it meant nothing really. Like it was just, oh, this is usual day.
Yeah, I know that's treading back into negative territory a little bit.
We're just talking about the actors as a whole here.
I think she did a fairly decent job, but I don't think... I didn't feel the emotion end of it as much. When she got in arguments, it was there. Mm-hmm. But when it was in other scenes, it wasn't, and that could have been just the way things were set up.
It could have just been a character choice, yeah.
It could have been all sorts of things that we just don't know about in the set in general. One thing, I guess, is in the negative, and it's not her fault, is that if I didn't know full hand going in that it was a tiefling, I would have thought it was a satyr.
Fair enough argument, yeah. Like, you don't see enough of the legs to see if there's hooves or not, but there's no pink Asmodeus skin going on either.
There's nothing... I mean, they're like, oh, because they're horns, and they have to point it out.
Mm-hmm. And, like, the tail shows up for, like, a quarter second, but honestly, it looks more like a rat tail than, like, a devil tail.
Yeah, I wouldn't even have thought of it. But anyway, otherwise, most of the cast... Even on the... Hugh Grant knocks it out of the park.
Hugh Grant does...
He just knocks it out of the park. And I think this is going to sound really weird. I think he carries the thing better. like the push and pulls that do happen.
Yeah.
And the arguments, if you didn't have somebody like Hugh Grant and someone like Chris Pine, who are very well-versed actors at this point, Hugh being considerably more versed, but nonetheless, pushing and pulling, the actors that play the things wouldn't have had such a polarity where it felt like they were distant and cold. You get that even more because of how animated Pine and Grant are.
Yeah, Hugh Grant just manages to carry every scene that he's in, and it revolves around him, which is perfect for his character.
Yeah, absolutely perfect. Does a great job. I can take or leave the daughter. It's important. I mean, it's just tell everybody that. I could take or leave it, but you know what? That's not on the actress. That's the story.
Yeah, there wasn't anything for her to do, so that's fine.
I mean, she wasn't going to be like Ellie and pick up a knife and stab somebody randomly. It's not that kind of movie.
No, not that kind of movie.
So
what
I got for actors.
That's what I got for actors, too. Want to hop back into effects?
Yeah.
Man, they've made this movie look so good.
But I do have a positive that is kind of not left field when you think about it.
Okay.
I'd watch this movie again. I'd watch it in the theater again if I wanted to find a theater that wouldn't charge me an arm and a leg to get in. So since I have, apparently maybe I will if they're still showing it. Probably not with Mario in a small theater.
They are. They dropped John Wick, so my theater's doing D&D and Mario right now, which is a bizarre universe I never thought I'd find myself in.
Right? Local theater, the only thing it's playing is Nerd.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Nerd culture is dead, right?
Yeah. Well, it's going to be being beaten a little. But this movie, I think, revitalizes something about that, because after all of the things we were really worried about is that Hasbro was going to put their hands in it. Wizards was going to be like, we're stuck doing this build up for new movies. Not only have the directors came out and said something clean, the writer that are able to speak or do or on do not tell anybody's.
Yeah, not under NDAs.
NDAs and stuff. All seem to have had one motive in this movie, which was to make one solid movie, and they'd succeed. And I have to give a lot of credit to that because it is a feel-good style movie that I was not expecting to be that cleanly done. That I could just sit down, turn on a streaming service and be like, oh, I'll watch that again. Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead.
It's got the Princess Bride effect.
It really does. It really is. Princess Bride, for all of its amazing, amazing qualities, if you wanted to look at it as a critic, you could rip the movie apart, but why would you ever dare? Mm-hmm. And this movie is going to have one of those effects, I think, long term. It's going to be like, oh, I want to watch just this random feel-good movie that's Goonies-esque, but also Princess Bride made. And I don't really want to watch The Dark Crystal because, seriously,
Man, you are out here with these references today.
I don't know where they're coming from, but they're not wrong. I mean, they're talking about all cult movies. And this movie, I think, is going to be a cult film in the long run.
I think so, too. I'm waiting for all these, special editions of the film that come out on Blu-ray with all these added extras and deleted scenes that we wanted in the movie that aren't in the movie because they needed to cut the runtime down.
And I bet you they also wanted to keep the story a certain level of fluidity. It feels like a chase scene that doesn't want to end at times.
I almost think they wanted to make the movie a little too simple, so first-time viewers didn't have to try and pick up all this D&D game knowledge. And I think that goes through and shows, specifically with Chris Pine, and how he plays a bard.
Man, he's not a bard.
That's, no magic whatsoever, really. And
I'm going to stand and die on that hill. That is not a bard.
Man was a fighter with a 1 level in bard and just happened to pick it up for the loot proficiency.
Yep, see, I'm glad you're reiterating my argument.
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, no, seriously, if you look at the film and you go, okay, I can figure out what that class. That is a druid. Too much wild shaping, but I don't care.
It's cool.
That is a sorcerer. That is a sorcerer that admits his faults and owns them. Love it. That over there, that's probably a barbarian.
Yep, no armor, barbarian. Yep.
No armor, gets a little pissed off when they fight.
Has an unarmed strike.
Yep. Has an unarmed strike, does an amazing tavern brawler style. I love it. Man, that is probably the best part of that. Anyway, I'll go back to that. But no matter how I look at character class, I'm gonna just put it out there. Pine's character is a Harper. Harpers can be any class, but the most common class is a fighter. He's seen in pauldrons and has medium armor, but probably portions of what would look like half plate.
Yeah.
Not a very Bard thing to do, so there's an issue. Third one, he never picks up a weapon, so okay, maybe not exactly a fighter. I mean, I guess he doesn't pick up a weapon seriously. But because he has a lute doesn't make him a bard.
Honestly, I have to think that the loot itself, just based on how many times he hit the...
He's exotic weapon proficiency, doesn't he?
I want to consider that loot like a wondrous item here, because, man, that thing smacked so many people and managed to not break, not lose a string.
And acted like a real guitar. Ask any metalhead how hard it is to break a guitar. Yeah, they break, but not in the first string. There is no first swing taking it out.
No, but that thing had to have been like brass at the bottom with how hard that thing was hitting.
I mean, it could be carved from solid maple for all we know. Who knows? I mean, it's probably a mystical metal. Or it's elven woods.
It's an adamantine elven-made loot.
That's the other thing is Chris Pine's character has more constitution, I think, than any other character. Because that man gets knocked around, tumbled, does amazing acrobatics. No. Sorry. I can't claim he's a bard. Not that you couldn't make a bard like that. I make College of Swords bards, as a nerd would quote, right?
Yeah.
And I love me a good action bard versus I'm going to sling spells everywhere. But he felt too fightery.
One thing that I absolutely loved was kind of the Easter eggs that were shown around in this movie.
So many.
Like the 80s cartoon characters in the maze.
Dang, stole it from me.
Yeah, I'm going to steal that one, motherfucker.
So if you managed to get that out of it, then did you actually see the GM/DM when they put him in the maze too?
I did not know.
So I didn't know about it either at first. I didn't see it in the film. I'll be honest. I'll admit this. But there's been a few rewindies that have caught it in film. And apparently you see the kids running around, but right before the dwarf that you see in there, you'll see the gnome-looking DM as well.
Oh, the game master.
Running the other way.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. So that we didn't just put the kids in there, we put everybody.
That's cute.
One thing I will spoil, there is no Dritz. And I'm happy for it.
Yeah, they can do that later.
They can do that later, and I'll be okay with it.
I low-key thought they would reference something to do with it when they were in the Icewind Dale, because all of Dritz's good stories are there.
Well, let's not even talk about the fact that they put this in Forgotten Realms, and Salvador literally built Forgotten Realms. Okay, I'm sure somebody on the internet's going to argue with me, but you're wrong.
Those are fighting words.
Those are fighting words. I don't care. How much he wrote for Forgotten Realms, you cannot give him credit. You can't give him enough credit. And there were nods towards him, but none towards his famed Dritz.
I'm wondering then if that's due to licensing and them not being able to. Because does Hasbro or does Wizards of the Coast have the license for Dritz?
I don't see why they wouldn't, given that he's actively in the Neverwinter game.
Yeah, but they could sell the license to video game rights for Dritz as a character for that, but not sell his movie rights, for example.
Oh, that's possible, but I mean, that goes back to an old TSR issue, and I'm fairly certain most of that's been settled by now. Or at least anything that's going to be deeply relevant, given the aggression of Hasbro lawyers. Please do not, come after us.
They got nothing to come after us for, except for
true.
Fighting words, I guess.
This gave me hope that a Dragonlance movie might get made one day.
With a Dragonlance story, though, I'd want it to be more Lord of the Ringsy, though.
It needs to be.
Like, I want dark fantasy, and you don't see any good, successful dark fantasy stories anymore.
No, the closest thing we got was an urban fantasy modern telling in Underworld. Mm-hmm. And even that still drips right out of the edge of that.
Yeah, and that's, like, hardly popcorn movie anymore.
Nah. No, the first one's still good.
First one's still good, but, like, as the franchise continued.
Like Blade.
Blade 3 was great.
I have a favorite line from the first movie. I'm just not going to say it.
That's fair.
But it is about ice skating uphill. Just saying.
On the whole, though, I really can't fault this movie for what it's tried to do. It was a good story. Nothing to write home about, but it was thoroughly entertaining and was near flawless in execution.
and I'm going to say this right now. I don't care. Come at me. I'll be the guy that you got to come after. It's fine. Rule of cool. The owlbear is allowed. I don't care. It was way too good.
That's all right. 6th edition will allow it anyway.
I'm sure. Or there'll be some fiat and, 1D&D setup.
They already said, yeah, you can do owlbear in 1D&D.
Yeah, see, then it doesn't matter anymore. See, now it's the Wizards.
Yeah, who said it's 5th edition rules?
I mean, it wasn't following rules to start with.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It does rules as written versus rule of cool all the way through that film. Couple of instances where you're like, hey, wait, you don't worry about it. It was still fun.
Let's go into a hypothetical here. Say they make another film set in the Forgotten Realms, right? And it's not necessarily following Chris Pine's group. Mm-hmm. What would you want from that movie, given the way that this film was made and how well it was made?
If we're not offshooting themes from this film, that gets a little dicey. I would be interested to see them do a Sword in the Stone style Elminster story.
Oh, Elminster, there we go.
That'd be pretty cool. And I would do it more Sword in the Stony. You find some sort of apprentice of Elminster, even if it's the fiat of the film, and have him follow Elminster around and kind of mix a little bit of Merlin from Sword in the Stone and a little bit of Gandalf from Lord of the Rings, and you get Elminster. And have him just go through some of the exploits. Make him a chronicler or something weird. And if anybody steals this and goes for it, I don't care.
So, one thing that I really, really want to see, and this is going to sound stupid, is a Meanskin Boo story.
We all do.
Or I want to see the close-up CGI Boo just start raging and beating people. Hopping from one person to another, and just as Mainska's watching, they're going, "Boo, go get him!" and just watching it. I think that'd be a great...
It is going to look, feel, and possibly get to the point of Rocket Raccoon. Just saying.
I want it to be better than Rocket Raccoon.
But you can't say it's not.
But I can.
Because there's not a gun?
Yeah.
And he doesn't quip.
Exactly. It's just raging hamster, kind of like the... there was a magic cinematic for Throne of Eldraine where there's these little gingerbread men running away from Garrick fighting some guy in a bakery. And I don't know why, but I have that same cinematic in mind when I look at that. And if you haven't seen that cinematic, it's great. Watch it on YouTube. It's 30 seconds. Amazing.
Okay. That's fine. You know what I don't want to see?
What?
A Dritz film.
You don't want to see a Dritz film?
No. I don't want to give edgelords the, ammo.
Hold on. What if it was a rom-com Dritz film?
That would be hilarious. I don't know how you're doing it.
His relationship with Cardi.
I mean, you could also do his relationship with Loth, but... I don't know if that'd be very wise.
Oh, no, that's exactly...
Is that the Jilted X? Loth is the Jilted X?
Oh, yes, please.
Man, that feels like a WandaVision waiting to happen. Nonetheless.
Or it could be the human barbarian often wielding a hammer in the Dritz Compendium from Icewind Dale.
My name's when it comes to that story is intentionally
it's not
forgotten.
Hrothgar, but it's something like that.
You would think with all the references I can pull that one I would know, and I just randomly don't.
All right.
I just don't want to see a Dritz film right off the bat, or it's one of those things where Dritz has so much impression nostalgia for people that I don't think you can make an audience actually happy.
I don't think you could from a movie. I think it'd have to be a TV show, personally.
TV show would do fine. It would do actually really well if you do it like Mandalorian style.
Yeah, no,
something like that.
They really need to get with Paramount and start making some high-scale TV shows.
That discussion is going to be something I don't want to see.
Well, let's go ahead and save those discussions for another time. As a whole, go see the movie. It's great. You're going to love it. If you don't, then your mom's a hoe. That simple.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You said we were doing references.
I guess.
Either way, I am your host, Zach. It has been a pleasure having you with us today. Andrew's going to make a bunch of noise on Mike as he pulls out this D20 to wrap us off.
I'm not going to make a bunch of noise. I'm going to do my best to make almost no noise. But I am going to show you the die. Because why not? Also, I was really hyped to get this thing.
He spent good money on it, so it's fine.
I mean, this is just how you know that I'm actually a fan of D&D, I guess. Nerd cred? No, I don't believe in that crap. I just wanted the die because I want the die.
That's all you need it for.
The sadness, it doesn't roll well. The lid opens. I tried. I thought it would be cool. Make it a boss die for something.
Honestly, just peg your players with it. Do like 1d4 bludgeoning damage.
You're one of my players.
I know.
Okay.
But I'm playing a monk, though, so I've got deflect missile.
That's why you didn't care. All right, then.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening, watching, wherever you're viewing this podcast. Look forward to seeing more weekly, bi-weekly content as we figure out our schedules and actually do some content. Hoping to, in August, do a playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3. So I look forward to that. Otherwise, have a good night, drive safe, and I've got nothing evil to say, so you want to take that one, Andrew?
It's not in me.
All right, we're being lawful good this time. Have a good night, guys.